Speaker.
Watson. I'm sorry. Gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I want you to contemplate this number for me. 54,600,549. Let me say that again. 54,600,549. Some numbers are so big you just cannot get your arms around them. They're staggering. And I can remember when I first became a budget conferee in 2004, they were talking about $70 billion budgets, and for a guy that made about $50,000, I just couldn't comprehend it. And we were talking about $1 million up on the 9th floor, and I thought that was everything, and one of the senators told me it was budget dust. 1.2 million K-12 students in our schools. Multiply that by 45, and you get around 54,600,549. You might be asking yourself, what does that number represent? That number represents how many abortions we have had in this country since the 1973 decision on Roe versus Wade. Now, I hope you're at least a little bit uncomfortable with that number. I hope you're a little quiet right now in this house. Some people might even be staring at the floor at this point. Because we talk a lot about what are we going to do about this number. And I got to tell you, that number simply haunts me. I have trouble going to sleep at night because of that number. And when I came to this house, I said I would do everything I could to address that number. You know, I am privileged to have friendships on both sides of the aisle. I know there are good intentions on both sides of the aisle. And I am privileged to go to Bible studies on Tuesday and Wednesday. And one of my favorite Psalms is Psalm 139. And I love King David because King David had a lot of faults, but the one thing you always know about King David, he was a man after God's own heart. And if you remember Psalm 139, he talks about his Creator and how he knew me in my mother's womb, and how I was fearfully and wonderfully made, and that the Lord knew every one of his days that were preordained. And I guess that's always been sort of my fundamental feeling about this issue. I have 4 boys and a beautiful wife. They are Lane, Carter, Blake, and Cameron. Lane's a sophomore at Longwood. Carter's an 11th grader who just made the varsity baseball team, and that's a big deal for me. And Blake's a 9th grader, and Cameron is the baby. He's a 7th grader. And I love to pull out my wallet and show you all the pictures, because that's what proud fathers do. And I love to show you my home movies. That would bore you, but you've all got Lane, Carter's, Blake's, and Cameron's that are so dear to you. And the thing that haunts me is when you're talking about 54,600,549, there are Lanes, Carters, Blakes, and Camerons in that number. And that's why I'm pro-life.